Welcome all. Today we will see the Rio Summit or the Rio Declaration or the Earth Summit of 1992. We do not inherit the earth from our fathers, we borrow it from our children. With this quote, we will go into United Nations Conference on Environment and Development. Major United Nations Conference which was held on Rio de Janeiro from the 3rd to 14th June 1992. The focus of this conference was the state of global environment and the relationship between economic science and the environment in the political context. The conference concluded with the Earth Summit, at which leaders of 105 nations gathered to demonstrate their commitment to sustainable development. First, we will see the history. The United Nations Conference on Human Environment 1972, Sweden, Stockholm. Here, Stockholm Conference secured a permanent place for the environment on the world's agenda and led to the establishment of United Nations Environmental Programme. 1978, Great Lake Water Quality Agreement. 1985, Helsinki Agreement, a 21-nation commitment to reduce sulfur dioxide emission in air. The 1988 Montreal Protocol on substances that deplete the ozone layer, and in 1989 the Basel Convention on Transboundary Movement of Hazardous Waste. All these contributed to the protection of environment. The issues addressed: systematic scrutiny of pattern of production, particularly the production of toxic components such led to in gasoline or poisonous waste including radioactive chemicals. Alternative sources of energy to replace the use of fossil fuel which are linked to global climate change. New reliance on public transportation system in order to reduce vehicle emission, congestion in cities, and health problems caused by polluted air and smoke growing to the scarcity of water. One should not forget that in Stockholm Declaration 1972, the environmental awareness globally developed, but its action plan took another 10 years. When you see the Nairobi Declaration in 1982 and the Agenda 21 and the action plan continuing after that, which resulted in 1992, that is the 10 years of consistent formation took place. So Stockholm Declaration 1972, Nairobi Declaration 1982, after that the Rio Summit 1992 took place. Now the results: Convention on Biological Diversity, the Framework Convention on Climate Change, United Nations Convention on Combat Desertification, Rio Declaration on Environment and Development, Agenda 21 and the Forest Principle. These are the major outcomes of what took place. First, we will see the Convention on Biological Diversity, the sustainable use of its components, and the fair and the equitable sharing of benefit arising out of the utilization of genetic resources, including appropriate access to genetic resources by the appropriate transfer of relevant technologies, taking into account all the rights over those resources and technologies by appropriate funding. Developed a global strategy with guidelines for action by international, national and local government and institutions to save and understand and use biodiversity sustainably and equitably. The US was the only attending country not to sign the Biodiversity Treaty. Next is the Framework Convention on Climate Change, which led to the implementation of Kyoto Protocol, stabilization of the greenhouse gas concentrates in the atmosphere at a level that would prevent dangerous anthropogenic interference with the climate system, to ensure that food production is not threatened, or to enable economic development to proceed in a sustainable manner. The key elements of conventions are new and additional financial resources to meet conventional goals, promotion of transfer of technology to developing countries, and an institutional mechanism to enable the international community to manage the climate change problem over the long term, working with the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. Next is United Nations Convention to combat desertification. To combat desertification and to mitigate the efforts of drought through national action program that incorporate long-term strategies supported by international cooperation and partnership arrangements. It is the first and the only internationally legally binding framework set up to address the problem of desertification. The convention is based on the principle of participation, partnership and decentralization as the backbone of good governance and sustainable development. Rio Declaration on Environment and Development consisted of 27 principles intended to the future sustainable development. These principles define the rights of the people to the development and their responsibility to safeguard the common environment. They built on ideas of Stockholm Declaration, which was said in 1972, the United Nations Conference on Human Environment. The Rio Declaration states that only way to have long-term economic progress is to link it with environmental protection. This will only happen if the nation established a new and equitable global partnership involving governments and their people and the key sectors of societies. They must build international agreements that protect the integrity of the global environment and the developmental system. Agenda 21, a non-binding voluntary implemented action plan of the United Nations with regard to sustainable development, a 300-page document divided into 40 chapters. They have been grouped into 4 sessions. First session, social and economic dimension, is directed towards combating poverty, especially in developing countries, changing consumption pattern, promoting health, achieving a more sustainable population and sustainable settlement in the decision making. Section 2. Conservation and management of resources for development includes atmospheric protection, combating deforestation, protecting fragile environment, conservation of biodiversity, control of pollution and management of biotechnology and radioactive waste. Section 3. Strengthening the role of major groups includes the role of children and youth, women, NGOs, local authorities, business and industry, and workers, and strengthening the role of indigenous people, their communities and farmers. Section 4. Means of implementation includes science, technology, transfer, education, international institutes and other financial mechanisms. Next is the forest principle. The informal name given to the non-legally binding authoritative statement of the principles for a global consensus on the management, conservation and sustainable development of all types of forest. The Montreal Process, also known as Working Group on Criteria and Indicators for Conservation and Sustainable Management of Temperature and Boreal Forest, was started in 1994 as a result of the forest principle. Forestry issues and opportunities should be examined in a holistic and balanced manner. Forests are essential for economic development and maintenance of all forms of lives. Thank you.